questions that you may have for our guest. Our today's guest, who will join us shortly, is Rafia Mariam Altaf, an experienced family law solicitor, whom we will be talking to in a short while. Our superfood of Eid recipes from different cultures and backgrounds. So we'll be talking about that in detail with Fawzia. Right, okay. There are many ways to cook this. And as you can see, I've just been joined by Fawzia and Rafia, so whom we'll be talking to in a short while. So first of all, I want to hand it over. Okay, I will hand it over to Fawzia in a minute. I'll let her get her breath. And we will recap the last show and the benefits derived from eating lamb. Assalamu alaikum, Fawzia.
The previous week I spoke about sweet potatoes and the health benefits of the sweet potato. I had a guest in who was studying at University of Kiel, studying pharmacy, and she was discussing how she's enjoying it there and how it's been for her being a young Muslim girl there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had a guest in who was a mature student in teaching, so he was doing NQT in teaching.
Oh, that's good.
So that was hopefully inspiring to many listeners so that they can always think about pursuing careers when they're older.
Exactly. So what benefits have you got for us for eating lamb then? That's one of my favourite foods actually, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, I could eat it every day.
Okay, so lamb. There's a number of benefits with lamb. Okay, so one of the main ones being protein.
Okay.
So it's a lean lamb as well, lean cooked meat, and so therefore the protein in there is very good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of fat, it varies on how much is, when you're at the butcher's, obviously how much you cut away and how much you keep on. So it's up to the individual depending on how much fat they choose to keep on their meat. But again, that fat is not too much, and it's monosaturated fats, so it's not as healthy, but it's not as unhealthy either. And it's got vitamins in there as well, and minerals. So it's got vitamin B12 and selenium that we've talked about before, which is good for the brain development.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and then it's high in zinc as well, which is important.
It's very similar to salmon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're talking about salmon, and that's quite rich.
It's a rich meat as well, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
rich fish, salmon is. And it's got niacin in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important for the body functions, and it helps reduce the risk of heart disease as well.
Okay.
And it increases the risk of heart disease. That's why also when you have lamb, it's important that you don't eat it too regularly.
Oh, okay.
So once probably every 2 weeks.
So everything in moderation,
That's
really, isn't it?
So the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself, he was more of a vegetarian than he used to eat meats very rarely, although he did eat them, but it wasn't so often. And there's also phosphorus as well in there, which is essential for growth and maintenance. So for young children, I think lamb is quite essential.
Yeah, I think what happens is we kind of forget, and if you love your meat, you're gonna end up eating it more than, like, we kind of have it more than twice a week, and I know we shouldn't, but it's like so readily available, isn't it?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, we're blessed to be fair.
Alhamdulillah, and with Eid, Eid coming up, and
That's
the sacrifice of the meats and everything. I mean, abroad people don't get a chance to eat that. Probably once a year.
That's it. I was actually looking at some ads and considering where to do our Qurbani this year, because we normally do it abroad, and I think it's nice for the poor people to be able to have the lamb and these meat packages delivered to them, because for us it's a lot of luxury. For them it's a luxury.
Okay, I'm just going to introduce our guest who's sitting there very quietly in the corner, Rafia Mariam Altaf. Can you just tell us a bit about yourself, and then we'll ask you what kind of recipes you do with lamb?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased to be here. I have in fact bought a lamb recipe.
Oh, brilliant.
Eid, today to share with the listeners as well, with Eid coming up. Do you want me to go ahead and...
No, that's fine. Just tell us a bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about your career after the Azan break. But we'll talk a bit more about the lamb before.
Okay. Basically, I'm a family law solicitor. I work at Green Solicitors. I qualified about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I can go on and tell you a bit in detail about what it is that I do.
Yes, inshallah, we'll talk about that after the Azan break. So, what recipe have you got for us then?
It's basically a lamb curry with okra.
Ooh.
So it's something a little bit unusual.
Yeah.
Something that I found interesting. My best friend made this.
Okay.
for me,
It's more of an
so-
African dish, that is, isn't it? Lamb with okra.
I think it's a Punjabi dish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
my Nigerian friend used to cook it often.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she said it was one of their dishes that they mainly eat there, but perhaps it is more Punjabi as well.
It's probably like variations,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead then. Tell our listeners so maybe they could use that for Eid.
Okay. So first of all, the ingredients that you need for the dish is lamb. So it's lean lamb that's used for this dish, and it's chopped into cubes. You'll need ginger and garlic paste, salt, fenugreek leaves, turmeric, coriander, red chilli, garam masala, oil, lemon and onions. So basically the method to make the recipe is you'll need to chop the lean lamb into cubes, place it into a bowl. So there's 3 steps to making this recipe. You need to add the garlic and ginger paste to the lamb.
That sounds really nice, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, so you can tell like the ginger and the garlic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got those
Kind of
Punjabi
flavour,
flavours as well, yeah.
A bit overwhelming.
She added ginger only, not
She
garlic.
did.
Yeah.
Have you actually watched her make it?
I didn't actually watch her make it, but I could
Yeah.
smell it. It did
You
smell a
smell
bit
it?
like a curry, to be fair, when she was
Okay.
cooking it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as flavoursome and powerful.
Oh, okay,
because-
maybe we can compare and see.
Yes, yeah.
See how. So basically, after adding the ginger and the garlic paste to the bowl, you add salt to taste. You add fenugreek leaves, half a teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of coriander powder, half a teaspoon of red chili powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of garam masala, and you add oil, squeeze half a lemon, and then you mix that mixture really well. Then you place that mixture on a baking tray and heat the oven at 180 degrees.
Wow,
Okay.
she's brought in like really detailed, recipes.
Yeah, nice.
And then you place that in the oven for 20 minutes to cook. So that's the first stage. The next stage is you add oil into a pan. And then you prepare the okra. So you remove the tip and the tail of the okra. Add cumin seeds to the oil. Add 1 green chilli to the oil just to give it that kick. And again, you add a bit of ginger and the okra, and then you add onions. So basically, usually when you make a curry, you add the onions first and all the chilies. So this
But
is
you-
more like a rustic way of cooking. You add the onions later.
Later, yeah.
And then you add salt again to taste. Onions. So basically, cook that for a while. When the onions and okra are sweating, that's when you add the spices. So you add the fenugreek, 2 teaspoons of coriander powder, half a teaspoon of red chili powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon of garam masala powder, and you cook that on a slow heat. Okay. Then once that's basically sweated and the okra softened a little bit, you add the lamb, including all the juices from the baking tray, into the okra.
Yeah,
add
because
lemon juice at the end.
you don't leave the juice in the tray, do you?
No, 'cause
That's the
that's where
best
all the
bit, aren't they?
flavour
Yes,
is.
that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds really nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then just basically sprinkle chopped coriander at the end.
brilliant. And will
Yeah.
you be cooking that on Eid Day? Or will you?
Do
Who
you
will
know
be doing
what?
the cooking
I've
on
only
Eid?
usually we get together, so we go to my elder brother's house.
Yeah.
His wife does some cooking, we make some dishes, and we all get together and eat.
You kinda share
so
it.
we give
That's
Mum a
nice, isn't
break
it?
now, because Mum used to cook for the whole family before, but we've
Yeah.
said we'll take over now.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Yeah, so I've not had a go at making this, but I will be making it for my family soon. I had it at my best friend's house, and it was just so nice.
Yeah.
I thought I have to share.
So she's
this
inspired
today.
you with this recipe then, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
for the listeners, then you're saying that it's really tasty. So if they want to
So
actually...
basically, you can have this with either naan or boiled rice,
Yeah.
whatever you prefer.
Okay. I've got some neighbours who are from Kurdistan, and they use a lot of lamb in their food, and they make dolma. So I don't know whether you're aware of dolma. It's made with rice leaves,
Yeah.
and they have like squidgy rice in there,
that
and
sounds
it
good.
takes quite a long time to do. And what they do is they kind of steam their lamb or even chicken, and then they have all these other vegetables which they stuff with rice and lamb, and they let it cook on a slow cook for couple of hours, and that's their dish. And I think with lamb, I mean, all over the world, especially with the Muslims across the world, they've got their own variations. So have you got any other ones that you want to share, Fawzia?
Well, I went on holiday actually to Morocco a few years ago, and it just so happened to be that our flight, we didn't realise at the time when we booked it, it was the day of Eid, the return
Okay.
date was, and it was in the evening of Eid though, so the hotel owner, he, bless him, because it was quite a small little hotel and it was one of those nice, antique hotels, and he went to his house and he brought us some lamb back to try, and it was so tasty, it was unbelievable, mashallah. And I think with Moroccan people and more like Lebanese people, they have the true flavour of the meat that comes through, because they don't overpower with spices.
Yeah,
Whereas Punjabi and
that's true,
Pakistani people,
yeah.
we tend to give it that kick with the spice.
I think and they use a lot of dried fruits, don't
Yeah,
they?
they do,
Like
yeah.
apricots and,
Yeah.
I think I find it a bit strange though with having like sweet and sour together.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think if you're used to it, it's nice, but I think
Yeah.
it can be quite overwhelming.
I think I don't mind some recipes with it, but there's a few I'm not too fond of. But what he actually told me was that they slow cooked it in a large tagine, and they only flavoured it with some jeera powder and some coriander powder and some salt and a bit of haldi and ginger and garlic, only a minute amount of ginger and garlic, and they slow cooked it in the tagine for over 6 hours, he said.
Okay.
And it was quite a big tagine because he said that they all did it together. So his
Okay.
family got together and did it, and it was absolutely amazing.
Well, that's nice. We still got some time before the Zan break, so we will ask Rafia to tell us a bit about herself in terms of her career and how she decided to get into this field.
So basically, it's not something that I knew from the start that I wanted to do law. So when I did my A-levels, I studied subjects that I liked. So I did law, psychology, history and English. And then after the first year into my A-levels, I think that's when my interest in law peaked. So it's either a career between becoming a psychologist or pursuing law. So I found law at A-level really, really interesting. So I pursued it at degree level.
Okay.
Yeah, so at degree level, I liked, we did like numerous electives, so there's so many different areas of law that you can go into. There's like crime, family, property, probate. So my interest was in family law.
And where did that come about?
I enjoyed it at university level. Then when I went on to do the legal practice course, I did an elective in family law. Basically I thought it's something that I'll really enjoy because you're directly working with clients that are going through a troublesome time in their life. So it's usually like clients that are going through divorces or they're having problems with like children matters, disputes over children, that kind of stuff. So I thought it's just nice to get involved with clients and, be able to advise them and have that. So
It's more of that rewarding factor, wasn't it, as well then?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what made me interested to pursue family law.
And before this job, did you do anything else? Did you kind of do any side jobs maybe too?
Yeah, I worked at a few call centres. Yeah,
Okay.
before
I can relate to that.
Yeah, whilst I was a student, etc. So,
Oh, okay.
and it did take me quite some time to get a training contract as well, because it's not easy to get a training contract. So before I became a trainee solicitor, I was a paralegal as well.
Okay.
For a couple of years.
A small bird told me that you did a bit of radio as well at some point.
Yeah, I did. This was many, many years ago, and it was Radio Ramadan Dudley.
What did you do? Oh, okay.
So this was around about the time I was studying A-levels. Yeah, but that radio used to only run for the 1 month.
Okay.
And we used to be given like an hour slot and
Okay.
be able to discuss any topic of our choice, play nasheeds, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How did you find that then?
Yeah, I used to enjoy it. Yeah. But
And-
I haven't been on live radio for absolutely years. so-
Yeah, I bet.
So this is
Yeah.
bringing back memories then.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good to hear. So you said you got interested in paralegal work. What did you do after that?
After becoming a paralegal.
Yeah.
I started paralegal firm in it was a criminal firm where I was a paralegal for a couple of years. So I was working in the magistrates' courts.
Oh, okay.
Then I was working in the Crown Court as well with barristers, that kind of stuff. But I didn't want to qualify in crime. So although my training contract was with a criminal firm, I was seconded to a family law firm.
Okay.
So it is when I had that experience in family law that I knew that this is the area that I want to stay in.
So the paralegal part, is that
Yeah.
the actual training for you to become a fully fledged solicitor?
No, a paralegal is just someone. It's sort of admin broaching on. Some of the work is similar to what a solicitor does, but you're not qualified. You only
Okay.
become qualified as a solicitor when you start the training contract. So you
Right.
need a firm to offer you that training contract. But now there's different ways where you can qualify as a solicitor now, so it's quite changed. So if you're a paralegal for a few years, you can write that down as experience and submit it to the Law Society. So you may be eligible to qualify for a solicitor. So there are different routes into the
Oh,
profession.
brilliant.
I did the traditional route.
And it's
Yeah.
quite competitive though, isn't it, to even get a training course as a solicitor?
It is.
quite,
It's very
yeah.
competitive. That's the point where most people get stuck on.
That's why you were doing paralegal work for a few
they'll
years.
get the degree done, they'll get the legal practice course done, and then they're just stuck on waiting for a training contract.
And people who want to continue to become a barrister as well, you can do the bar course, can't you? But then you have to do your pupillage after that, don't
that's
you?
the BBC. So instead of the LPC, it's the BBC. Yeah.
And that's quite competitive as well.
That's even more competitive than becoming a solicitor.
And if you don't get the pupillage, it's I think 3 years window frame you have, and if you don't, then you have to resit the bar course, don't you?
I believe it used to be 5 years, but I'm not sure.
Perhaps it is 5 years. I've probably got that wrong.
And
Yeah.
then, you do have to repeat the course. You're right. Yeah. Do you have a background in law?
I don't know.
No. Okay. Yeah.
I'm a
You're
science
well-informed.
teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a science teacher.
No,
and,
Fawzi just likes to inquire about everything, so
okay.
it's great.
I'm well
Loves the
informed.
research.
Yeah. No, okay. So that's interesting, actually, though. Do you think you would want to become a barrister at all?
So once you become a solicitor, you don't have to do the BBC to convert
become-
over. Yeah, it's like dependent on numerous years' experience and stuff. But probably not. It's not something that's interested me. I do advocacy in court anyway, so I do represent my clients in court. So my job role sort of overlaps what a barrister does.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
That's
do
nice.
enjoy. With barristers, their work is just court work.
Okay.
So they don't have that one-to-one contact really with clients in the office, whereas I do, and
Yeah.
I enjoy that. So I would
So
want to.
that's nice,
Yeah.
actually, to be honest.
Yeah, that gives you a bit of variety, doesn't it? Because you're not doing the same repetitive work.
Yeah.
And I suppose each client is very different
Yeah,
compared to the
they
other.
are.
And there's like many issues, and you kind of get involved in there, almost like in
You
family.
become a part of their life.
Yeah.
Whilst the
Yeah.
case is ongoing, you become a part of their life.
So not only are you the lawyer, you become the counsellor /
Yeah,
therapist.
Absolutely, especially with family law. 'Cause
How have you
probably-
found that, though, actually, if you're going through a divorce case, for example?
You have to be really, really sensitive to the client. Like, you have to be sympathetic, understanding, patient, all of that. Because you have to understand they're going through probably the most troublesome time of their life, like the breakdown of a marriage, splitting your family, children,
yeah.
assets involved. Literally, your life's been turned upside down. So, yeah, we have to extend ourselves.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because the next thing I was going to ask you is what skills, abilities, and personal attributes do you think are essential
Yeah.
to succeed in your role? That's a big question for you.
Yeah, I think first of all, I'd say to anyone that's wanting to do law, you have to be prepared to put in a lot of long hours with studying. It's a lot of hard work. You have to be self-motivated. The exams are quite tough to get through. What else would I say?
I mean, what
Be
keeps you...
have an empathetic personality
Yeah.
as well, though.
Empathetic
Yeah.
personality. Once you start practicing empathetic personality, and it all depends, because it really, really depends what area of law you want to go into.
Yeah.
If you're talking about family law, definitely. But stuff like conveyancing, where you're just buying and selling property, it's more of
Yeah,
an office.
I think family law is quite tough, actually, and the criminal side of it as well.
Yeah,
Do you find sometimes you go back home and you're reflecting on your day, or if you've heard something bad that a couple is
How
going
does it
through?
impact you?
Yeah, you do, because sometimes like you have bad news to give to the client. Like it's all about managing clients' expectations, because sometimes they come to you with unrealistic expectations. They have an issue and they want the outcome of their case to be this, and they tell you that, but within the parameters of the law that's not possible. So it's on us to manage the expectations so they're not disappointed at the conclusion of the case when they don't get what they thought they should get.
So, sorry.
Sorry, is it really challenging then if, because, certain clients could be quite, adamant they want things in their way?
I think it's all about, again, managing the expectations. So if you're realistic with them from the onset, so the first time when you have that initial meeting with them, you're taking instructions from them, that's when we're getting a feel of what the case is about, what it is they're going through, what they're looking to achieve. And it's from that point, so it's right from the onset, you give them the advice that these are the possible outcomes that you're looking at.
Yeah, I understand. So coming back to what I was asking you earlier, though, when you have a client, for example, who's quite upset and they're going through a really tough divorce procedure, do you find when you go home that it does affect you?
I think it used to when I first started working, but I think you need to understand that you have to develop a bit of a thick skin to get through your working day.
So you've now,
Otherwise,
it looks like...
because you have to do what's in the best interest of the client. So if you start to get upset or, do you know what I mean, let it affect you, you have to keep it together.
So
for
in
the
essence,
client.
then you've trained yourself to become more resilient to that, then, haven't you?
Yeah,
So you try not to take it back
absolutely,
home. It's like doctors in a sense as well.
I think it become like I don't know whether case hardened is the right word. Maybe a little bit desensitised. Yeah.
But I suppose you have to with your job, in all honesty, because you don't want to be going home and thinking about all that baggage you've been through during the day. So how do you de-stress, though?
I love doing yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pick this question up after the azan break. We're shortly coming up to that in a couple of seconds. And then we'll speak to you more after that.